The Anglophone crisis has pushed the nation into a position where every Cameroonian has become a technical advisor to the government, telling them what to do, how to do, which way to go, and how to resolve the Anglophone crisis. When the crisis started in 2016, we've seen the good, the bad, the ugly lessons being given to the Biafra government by international communities, civil society organizations, political parties, churches, and among others, just for the government to resolve the conflict. When the conflict eventually started in 2016, we heard other faces questioning why Anglophones are agitating, top regime barons, ministers, and some stakeholders questioning why the government should negotiate with the teachers, that there is no Anglophone problem and that what we have is a Cameroon problem. In some circumstances, arrogance, denial became the new normal as fingers were pointing at the teachers and some saying that they have collected huge sums of money to destabilize Cameroon. When the conflict moved on, we started hearing phrases like le Cameroun existait avant les Anglais et les Français. Le Cameroun n'a jamais été une colonie anglaise ou française. Chaque région va demander son état. Ce n'est pas un problème anglophone, c'est un problème camerounais. When things fell apart, the Interministerial Ad Hoc Committee was called by President Paul Biya, chaired by Paul Nico Dogomo, in order to see into the problems of teachers and to effectively resolve it and to ensure that the teachers return back to their classes. At this point in time, Paul Nico Dogomo sat with the Interministerial Ad Hoc Committee and the delegation for days, and Paul Dogomo announced that all the demands tabled by the teachers will be looked into except for the return of a two-state federation, which the government of Cameroon will not look into. It is a taboo subject, and warned the teachers that should they not return to the classes, the government of Cameroon will assume its full responsibility, and by that we understand it is the use of force. And Gogomo ended that when the state assumes its responsibility to return normalcy, things will become normal as far as the conflict is concerned. At that point in time, in 2017, on the 17th of January, the then Minister of Communication, then Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization, Emmanuel René Sadi, banned the Anglophone Civil Society Consortium, and some of its members were arrested and some went on exile. As far as the conflict is concerned, that was when things fell apart. The peaceful protest now fell into the hands of government's most dreaded enemy, the Southern Cameroon movement. With Mark Bayata and Taban Ivo taking the lead, and guns and bullets were introduced at the early phase of the conflict, the battle and Merengue started dancing in northern southwest region. The question was what and how Anglophones are fighting for. At this point in time, we started hearing phrases like le Southern Cameroun n'a jamais été un État. On ne peut pas retourner au fédéralisme. L'autodétermination a été régulée avec le plébiscite du 11 février 1961. And in 2016, when the guns and bullets became louder, the image of Cameroon at the international frontier was tinted. There was need for Cameroon to regarnish our image at the level of international scene. Cameroon government, through its President Paul Biya, announced an interministerial ad hoc committee, again and equally went further, that the Grand Measure National Dialogue need to be called into place, and looting, burning, extrajudicial killing, intimidation became the center of the day in 2018 prior to the presidential election. We saw how villages were reserved in flame and finger pointing between the non-state angles and the state angles as to who is committing the atrocities. Was the order of the day. Gruesome pictures and images flooded the social media, and the Measure National Dialogue became a theme of discussion. President Biya announced that on the 30th of September 2019, the Measure National Dialogue was to look into the issue of the Anglophone crisis and other issues plaguing the nation in order to stabilize the nation and put it on a balanced scale for the nation to move on with its vision 2035. At this point in time, delegates were handpicked depending on how friendly they are to the regime and how friendly they are to those who they can talk to in terms of furnishing their pocket. Some of them sat within the confines of the major national dialogue without understanding its context. However, proposed a yet to be defined special status, which they left not knowing what the special status they actually proposed was. The special status became the top of the agenda on the president list. Even after September, October, November, many Cameroonians did not know whether all the resolutions tabled to the president had been accepted or adopted or will be looked into. It was only on the 12th of November 2019 during the Paris Peace Conference in France when Mo Ibrahim, in a discussion with Cameroon's president announced informally the acceptance of a yet to be defined special status and a context with Mo Ibrahim. And he said we had a context in which the Anglophones and the Francophones are marginalized. We understand that Anglophones have a genuine problem, and we have been looking for a way to integrate them into the French-dominated majority, that is 80%, but that is not wrong. But as every country is protective of its cultural identity, we have accorded them a special status, and that special status will be in confine with the territorial integrity of Cameroon, and that was when Cameroonians rejoiced and thinking that President Biya will, in his end of year speech on the 31st of December 2019, define the special status when he leaves France from the discussion with Momo Ibrahim. We all waited, watched the TV on the 31st of December to see the definition of the special status, yet the litmus test did not turn blue into black. At this point in time, we were expecting that other measures will be put in place to resolve the conflict, and President Biya announced the regional election. The regional election was announced with other political parties stating that they will not take part in the regional election. And at the point in time when the regional elections were called into place, many Anglophones thought that the regional elections were supposed to have been called on when the problem is resolved, but yet it did not. Maurice Kamto and his team took to social media saying that they will not go in for the regional elections as far as this is concerned. The cause of the matter here is that many regime barons, including some CPDM officials, don't know the special status content and are juxtaposing regional council election with special status. You hear others will be chanting the song that special status is regional election, that regional council election is part of the special status. It is within this context that we are evaluating the place of regional council election in the package of special status. How credible is this? Should we say that if special status, if the regional election is part of the special status, does it mean that all Cameroon now have a special status? This is House of Commons with me, Tamais. Hello viewers, welcome to yet another edition of House of Commons with me, Tamais Jarvis. The motion, we have two motions for today. On our first motion, we are evaluating special status with the framework, regional elections framework of special status. And us will begin by our guest who is in Dakar, by Salenjo Vitalis. Welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us, Senegal.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on the program.
A happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday to you.
Now we equal Michael, who is a university lecturer. You're welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks so much, Jarvis. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Good to have a great discussions. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for the accepting the invitation. Here in the studio, we have Suleiman, who is, of course, of the SDF, Social Democratic Party. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jarvis, and we are here to they are going to juxtapose and look at some of the contentious issues, problems, and difficulties inherent in the so-called regional elections status.
Thank you very much. We have Professor Mark Anthony, who is a partner. Professor Mark Anthony, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jarvis, and thanks to the millions at us at this particular hour. And I want to believe that this particular afternoon is going to be educative, not going to be a debate. This other is going to be a debate that will be educating you. So I think that as you sit print, Jarvis.
Thank you very much. Here in the studio, we equally have senior barrister, the founder of the senior barrister. You're welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us. The most controversial person at the time, as of now.
Good afternoon, panelists. Good afternoon, televiewers. Good afternoon, Judge. I don't think I'm very consistent, and I think I'm one of the few Cameroonians who stand for the truth and who will die for
negative perspective. I'm just looking at the changing how people say it's a controversy, but that will be a topic for another time. You have always been objective, critical, and professional as far as the policies of Cameroon is concerned, and that. Here in the studio, we equally have a member of the Cameroon Democratic Movement. We have Mr. Joseph Mbutu. You're welcome. Bienvenue.
Bon, je crois que vos téléspectateurs qui sont habitués à écouter l'anglais vont devoir s'adapter dimanche parce que je vais m'exprimer en français pendant que les autres.
And special status. How is it? Does that have a correlation?
Come on, read.
Thank you so much. I always say that Cameroon is one of the most you cannot know how to define Cameroon. If the Biafra government is talking about special status, which they pretended to have brought up since last year until this moment, there's nothing, and then they are talking about regional elections. I don't see how the two hold. However, I am not with. I must clarify this issue. I am not saying that I'm supporting Kamto in the boycott, because to me, he's one politician who does not even know what he's saying. Today he's saying this, tomorrow he's saying that. So we are addressing the incompatibility of the special status vis-a-vis the regional elections. First and foremost, when we talk of special status, we were expecting some preferential treatment when it comes to the former Southern Cameroons. Because if you look at it, by even implementing or by even stating that they should give us a special status, it means that government has for once recognized the fact that the Anglophone Cameroonians have for so many years been left behind. So we are expecting some special treatment like central finances, tax breaks, establishment of a special development board, reservations in local government jobs, and so on and so forth. But that notwithstanding, if you say you want to give us special status, it means that the special status should be unique to the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. And then now, if you are conducting a regional election which covers the entire national territory, it is as if they are still treating us as if everyone is on the same page. We want that, in as much as I'm not really a fan of special status, I'm a fan of federation, or at worst case scenario, the other option, we expect government to actually come to the table in good faith. Is it proper for us to have a regional elections now? Even if we are to have the regional elections, what becomes of the governors, the DOs, and so on? Also, these are some of the issues that they really have to visit the foundation before they are talking of regional elections. How would the chairman of the regional council react when the governor is attending an occasion? Between an elected regional council chairman and the governor who is appointed by the centralized Pobia in Yaoundé, when they meet during an event, how will it be? Who is the boss? So these are the issues that I really think the regional elections is premature, and if the president could sit back with his henchmen and first of all finish with us as a people on our special status or whatever they mean by that, then it will make some real sense to me.
Thank you very much. I'll continue here with you, senior barrister. Let me just take the barristers at once. Senior barrister here in the studio. We were looking at this context. Many people are juxtaposing special status and regional election. We understand that in 1996, the constitution was sub-amended and effective decentralization, which has now been rebranded into accelerated decentralization, was put into place, and which gave room for regional elections. But we are now looking at regional elections. Some are saying special status.
Well, going by the new law on local government, it is on the occasion of these regional elections that the special status can be put in place. So if you don't have the regional electorate going down to choose the delegates and those who are going to the House of Chiefs, then you cannot have the special status. So it is imperative for those people who are expecting the special status will put in place, that these elections hold. It's not a matter of you supporting or not supporting. You see, I personally had taken the stand to say this is a special empty status. We can look at it objectively, there's nothing inside. Now, how do I prove that it is empty? Let us give them the opportunity to put it in place. Let them put it in place, then we shall prove to them that it is empty, because it is, first of all, a municipal status. Some of them want to think that it is a special concession that looks like some form of autonomy. We are saying no. The Southern and Northern are going to have the same thing as the other regions. The chiefs in the other regions also have a conclave they meet. So it's a general. It's something general. There is nothing special about it. The only thing special is the name. Is the name that is special, and the fact that you have House of Chiefs. House of Chiefs. The rest, and the special conciliator. I don't know what use it is. But let us at least allow them, put it in place. Then we can now finish with them when it comes to the workability of the special status. But to say that it is not it's not a nice thing to have the elections run is wrong, because these elections, you remember the Constitution says, as you cited the Constitution, the Constitution said Cameroon is a unitary decentralized state. If you don't put in place the last elements of the state prescribed in the Constitution, then you don't have a complete state. I think to be Republican, we have to allow this thing to be put in place. Then as politicians, we shall dismantle it and show that it is an empty thing, that, it is only the verbs that are used to describe, that are used to portray the thing, that make it special. So apart from that, there's nothing there.
In context, you are saying that the special status is specially empty.
Specially empty status. So I want them to put it in place, so I should show them that it is a specially empty status.
Thank you very much. Let me get to Mr. Michael for coming to the other members. Mr. Michael, we are looking at regional elections as far as special status is concerned. How do we draw the line here? As Senior Barrister articulated that the other regions too, their chiefs too will have to meet. So, and all the regions, all the divisions of the other region have chiefs too that are supposed to be within the regional election. How far are we looking at the special status?
Now, already you will see that there is nothing special that the government has to offer to the Northwest and Southwest. Because I look in it, there is somebody at the level of authority and is using the Northwest and Southwest, us, the population of that region, we are at the level of solidarity. That's a fact, and it's true. But I think we need to be very, very honest. Yes, this issue of regional elections, I don't think that it goes into the special status stuff. That was issue that was imbibed in the Constitution of 1996, and it has only been delayed up to this point. I don't know whether it was professionally delayed or intentionally delayed, so that when we come up with what we are coming up today, and then they start talking about the issue of regional elections. But I know that the issue of special status touches very much on education and the judiciary, and that is why they have been trying to make some window dressing about what is supposed to happen. And we know it emanates from some way. The demands of the lawyers, the demands of the teachers, and that is why we are talking much about that touching on the judiciary and the schools. And when we ask ourselves and we make an assessment of what happened since 2016 up to 2020 to what the government has done in terms of the demands of the lawyers, yes, they can say yes, a special bench, the Supreme Court, common law, and in NAM and all whatnot. But and so what? After everything, and so what? What has changed? Because we still have the very things that are happening.
But lawyers are threatening to go on protest.
Exactly. Meaning that nothing, because nothing has been done for them. They felt that they were given an empty basket, and when they open the basket, there are rather bees that came out and they are stinking them. That is what is happening with that basket. So we need to be very, very careful about what we are talking about special status. And in the second place, who told who to give a special status to whatever? If we are talking about if we are going back to 1961, I mean, what we are claiming is that we should sit on a negotiating table and talk. we talk about special status that came out from a grand national dialogue. That, I mean, it was like a monologue. When you talk about a dialogue, you have to call the parties that are utterly involved in a discussion to come and sit and talk. When you look at the dialogue that we had in October, who came out? Who came out from the other party to talk? I mean, you find those who are utterly revendicating and who are asking for, revalorization of their status. And that was even very simple and common for them to do, because the Angvus are not supposed to be begging for their situations to be changed. They are supposed to be on the negotiation table and asking that this is my own share and hitting their hands on the table. They are not supposed to be begging.
Within the confines of the Constitution.
Of the Constitution. Of course, that is it. But when we talk about the Constitution, how many times has the Constitution been mutated? How many times has that Constitution undergone some kind of shaving, babbing? We have babbed that Constitution so much, and we are babbing the Constitution to suit only the head of the person who is carrying it. That is not supposed to be. And we are saying that if that Constitution is supposed to be shaped or supposed to be changed as it has been done, and then we are supposed to be involved about what is happening, because we came as a union. It was a union, my brother. It was a marriage, my brother. If you decide that marriage is over, tell me that marriage is over. Barristers, you should shaking your head. You know the law, and you should say we should go to the law of the court of law, and we disintegrate. We part our way.
So essentially, you are telling us that the special status is very special in specially empty.
Of course, especially empty, and not only empty, there are some bees that have been put in the soil and they are sinking people in their head, and people are knocking their head for nothing.
Thank you very much. In 2018, when the conflict was at its peak, we started hearing phrases like les États doivent rester debout. Aucun gouvernement ne peut pas accepter la partition de son pays. Le Cameroun devenait indivisible. And at a certain point in time, we started hearing phrases like nous voulons la paix, ce sont nos frères anglophones, la situation s'est améliorée progressivement. Mr. Suleiman, you've witnessed this situation in Kumba. When you hear phrases like this, as far as when the conflict started, that threats like this, and now we are in a context of special status, do you think that we can still look at regional elections from the positive perspective?
No, the whole thing is a farce, total farce, because special status got nothing to do with what is happening today, because special status is general status. It is applicable within the context of the 10 regions. So the issue of special status should be ruled out, should be cancelled out completely. Secondly, this government is not willing to look into the problems of the Anglophones. This government is out to make sure that they still maintain their domination, exploitation, and intimidations of Anglophones in all ramifications. Look, as my colleague I said, the teacher said they don't want Francophone teachers to be saying to Anglophone teachers to come and indoctrinate them with French when they are of English background. This has not stopped. Today they are still posting civil law magistrates to common law courts. That it has not stopped. And you are talking about special status? Which special status are you talking about? You are talking about special status. All the legacies that we inherited from the British has been destroyed, has been abandoned. The power camps are all gone. The Medino has gone. Santa Coffee is gone. Everything is gone. And yet, even within the Fumban conference, where they say we are United Republic, this man in 1984 took a presidential decree and ruled out United and brought the Republic of Cameroon without even consenting the people who went to the union with him. And they are still talking about special status. Are
you telling us that the government of French Cameroon is playing a merry-go-round as far as changing the name, because they started from the Republic of La République du Cameroun to the United Republic of Cameroon, United Federal Republic of Cameroon. It started with La République du Cameroun, United Federal Republic of Cameroon with regions. It moved now to province, to the Republic of the La République du Cameroon. Now we are now from the aspect of regions back again.
Yeah, you see, they're only dancing merengue. They're only going around without intelligence. Look, the point is that Bomali said you can fool the people sometimes. You cannot always fool all the people all the time. We have come of age, we have arrived. We can understand what the government is trying to do. You cannot manipulate us. The government only believes in intimidation, harassment, arrest, and killing of people. That's the yardstick now. But let them do. This is a wasted effort. It's an effort in futility. People are ready to withstand and everything. This so-called special status is a dead thing. There is only manipulation. They just want to manipulate us and use our brothers Anglophone in government. To bring to tell us that things are going on well, but in reality, I'm telling you, everything is just a non-starter. It's a non-starter. We are just wasting our time. The so-called special status is general status. It's not, the Anglophone has nothing to profit from it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Butu. We've looked at this context before, and when the crisis started, people said, no, why are the Anglophones agitating? And the president came out and said, yes, their concerns are genuine, and they have to resolve their concerns within the context of special status. Your party is the ruling party at this point in time. The regional elections have been announced, and the proportion of the number of delegates have been given per divisions and regions that we all see. How do we define our special status within this context of regional election from your party perspective?
Oui, j'ai suivi les autres panélistes qui, Senior Barrister, qui a commencé à dire que c'est un statut vide parce qu'il ne voit pas de différence entre ce qui va se passer dans les autres régions du Cameroun et dans les zones anglophones. Je voudrais d'abord faire remarquer ici que toutes les régions ont d'abord 90 conseillers régionaux, toutes les régions, quelle que soit la taille sur le plan de la superficie ou même sur la population, toutes les régions ont d'abord 90 conseillers régionaux répartis en 70 régionaux départementaux et 20 chefs traditionnels. Ça, c'est comme ça d'abord dans toutes les régions. Mais maintenant, ce qui va faire la différence, c'est que dans les régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest, en dehors de ces 90, ils auront encore des chambres des chefs traditionnels à part. Vous voyez donc, ça amène donc une différenciation sur le plan de la forme. Tout le monde a les 90, mais eux, ils auront à part une représentation spéciale des chefs traditionnels. À partir de ce moment, ils ne peuvent pas dire que c'est la même chose qui va se passer entre les régions du sud et du nord-ouest et le reste des régions du Cameroun. Donc, véritablement, ne serait-ce qu'à partir de l'exemple que j'ai pris là, il y a une différenciation qui apparaît. Mais maintenant, Paris ne s'est pas conçu en un jour. Il faut débuter d'ailleurs. Il a dit qu'il encourage même les gens à aller à l'élection pour véritablement prouver aux gens que c'était une arnaque, cette affaire de statut spécial. Et moi, j'ai dit au lieu de dire que c'était une arnaque, que les gens aillent aux élections, que quelque chose commence à être mis en place et puisse être évalué et amélioré. On ne peut pas résoudre les problèmes du Cameroun en quelques mois, en quelques années. Le Cameroun est une donnée éternelle qui subsistera à nous tous ici là. On partira, on laissera le Cameroun. Nos enfants viendront, nos petits-enfants. Et je suis persuadé que le Cameroun d'aujourd'hui ne sera pas le Cameroun de nos petits-enfants. Nous avions le devoir, nous, actuellement, de marquer les empreintes qui profiteront à nos enfants, à nos petits-enfants. J'ai souvent dit, les politiques publiques, toutes les politiques publiques, l'évaluation ne se fait jamais sur le moyen terme. Okay. L'évaluation des politiques publiques se fait sur le moyen et sur le long terme. C'est-à-dire que les actions qui sont posées maintenant, on ne peut pas espérer que 6 mois, 8 mois, 1 an après, que nous puissions déjà avoir des effets qui sont véritablement visibles dans la société. Mais je vais vous garantir que le grand dialogue, les effets du grand dialogue seront véritablement visibles dans les 5, 6, 7, 10 ans à venir. Parce que l'essentiel, c'est de poser les bases. Après, on va améliorer. Et je voudrais dire quelque chose concernant le problème dit anglophone. Aujourd'hui, les régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest se sont associées sur le fondement d'une langue pour poser des problèmes communs. On dit problème anglophone, on dit ce sont les anglophones. Or, il est véritablement admis que sur le plan anthropologique, les anglophones du sud-ouest ne sont pas les anglophones du nord-ouest. Je prends une hypothèse d'école. Imaginons qu'il y a un État anglophone aujourd'hui qu'on appelle Ambazonie et qui regroupe les régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest. Quand ils auront formé un État. À l'intérieur de cet État vont se poser d'autres types de problèmes qu'on ne pose pas aujourd'hui. Aujourd'hui, c'est parce qu'ils sont tous d'expression anglaise qu'ils pensent qu'ils sont ensemble. Mais à l'intérieur, quand je vois dans un État qui regroupe les deux régions, et que le leadership penche d'un côté, par exemple, le leadership de cet État penche du côté du sud-ouest, ceux du nord-ouest qui sont des anglo-bamileke, alors que ceux du sud-ouest sont des Sawa. Ceux du sud-ouest sont des Sawa. Ceux du sud-ouest qui sont des Sawa diront que tout le pouvoir est au nord-ouest et d'autres types de problèmes vont commencer à se poser exactement comme non, je vais chuter par là, exactement comme on a vu dans la région du Sud-Soudan. Vous voyez, à un moment donné, le Sud-Soudan voulait la sécession, voulait une autodétermination, mais dès qu'on a donné l'État du Sud-Soudan, à l'intérieur de cet État-là, il y a d'autres revendications et une guerre civile qui a commencé à l'intérieur du même État qu'il voulait.
Are you telling us that the people from Meme division are Sawa, the people from Manu are Sawa, the people from Lebialem are Sawa, and the people from Dian are Sawa, the people from the other side of Sawa.
Je prends en termes du nombre. Au sud-ouest, les Sawa sont en très très grand nombre. Je parle en termes du nombre de la population. Au sud-ouest, les Sawa sont en très 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 grand nombre.
Okay.
Bon, je voudrais dire que dans le sud, actuellement, il y a des écoles anglophones. À l'est, à l'ouest, au nord, il y a des écoles anglophones. L'école anglophone n'est pas seulement représentée rien que dans le sud-ouest et le nord-ouest aujourd'hui. Les écoles anglophones sont dans toutes les régions. C'est-à-dire que si on doit compter les écoles spécifiquement où les gens apprennent en anglais, on ne va pas seulement compter les écoles qui sont au sud-ouest et au nord-ouest. On devrait compter toutes les écoles et les collèges qui sont à Douala, à Yaoundé et dans tout le Cameroun. Et moi, je vais vous dire quelque chose. Moi, mes enfants, mes filles, toutes mes filles font l'école anglophone. Toutes mes filles.
So you are saying,
toutes mes filles.
So you are confirming that les États, as what one French writer wrote, le Cameroun existait avant les Anglais et Français.
C'est clair.
Le Cameroun n'a jamais été un État colonisé anglais ou français. Chaque région va demander son État. Ce n'est pas plus un problème anglophone, c'est un problème camerounais.
Mais évidemment que c'est un problème camerounais. Le problème que nous avions aujourd'hui.
So if I may ask just briefly, so that we get to the other members. Okay, yeah, I want to ask you this so that I will get this move to the other members. So you are telling us in this context that before the German Cameroon, we had presidents. Who was the first president before the German Cameroon?
Écoutez,
based on what you are telling us.
Écoutez, le problème aujourd'hui n'est pas un problème d'une région particulière. Le problème au Cameroun, c'est un problème de développement global. Toutes les régions ont besoin de se développer. Le rôle de l'État, c'est de garantir le bien-être de sa population. Et ce bien-être de la population, autant les gens du nord-ouest l'attendent, les gens du sud-ouest l'attendent, les gens de l'extrême nord l'attendent, les gens du sud l'attendent. C'est le rôle de l'État. Hein? Et délibérément, moi je suis du RDPC, mais j'avoue quand même que nous avions pour le moment au Cameroun un problème de gouvernance. Donc au Cameroun, si on résout le problème de gouvernance et on actionne le développement dans toutes les régions, moi je pense que le problème de anglophone va s'effacer de lui-même, parce que j'étais en train de vous dire que mes enfants, je vais chuter, mes enfants sont dans l'école anglophone. Et les enfants de beaucoup de francophones que je connais sont dans l'école anglophone. Il va arriver dans quelques années au Cameroun où tout le monde pourra indifféremment parler anglais ou français, se réclamer francophone ou anglophone. Et lorsque tous les Camerounais pourront parler indifféremment anglais ou français, il y aura donc encore quel problème? Pourquoi on appelle ça problème anglophone? Qu'on enlève le vocable anglophone, mais qu'on pose des problèmes d'une région qui a besoin de se développer, d'une région où les populations ont besoin d'avoir un bien-être.
Thank you very much, and of course, Professor Mark, let's come back to you. Maybe a brief reaction to that before moving to the topic.
The very first thing I want to say is the idea of Anglophone being the regions that they have now carved is where we have a problem. You see, before 1961, where the Southern Cameroons actually came to associate in an legalized union with the La République du Cameroon, that section where you call Anglophone today was practically a state on its own. And when you come, because of the system of governance that had been actually instituted to separate and assimilate these people, we come on a platform like this and claim that it is a problem of language. It's not a problem of language. It is a problem that is deep down, touching culture and touching a people. We all believe and know that when the Germans actually were in control, we had no region that was beyond any other region, and they were not regions as we are calling today.
And there was no state.
There was no state. It only became walk towards states when it fell under the British and the French as trust territories, and they were all prepared for independence. These two states, the French-speaking Cameroon was being prepared for independence, while the English-speaking state was being prepared for independence. So when we come and we underlook that, we claim that it is a region because they are speaking language. It is not just a cultural issue. This thing goes deep. And I will not want to talk too much. The whole issue is that most of us, we don't understand the history of Cameroon. And that is where we have a problem. Once we understand the history, we might not want to hold on that history. But there is a problem with our comprehension of these two people. They are two different states that came together. And if we accept that they came together, the 1961 Constitution declares that they are two equal states. They were not two separate. It came as two equal states. And if they came as two equal states, they came standing on the same legs. One was not greater than the other. What has happened? That another state is given a special status to the other. There's something wrong. Practically wrong. Those are the issues that we need to look at.
One state that celebrating the National Day.
First of all, don't accept the celebration of the 1st of October, which is supposed to be celebrated. Let's keep that aside. Where has this equal status that each of these two regions, let me use it as they put it after independence, the Western Cameroon and the Eastern Cameroon, there were two states with equal status. Why is it that the Eastern Cameroon now is given a special status to the Eastern Cameroon? Where did the region idea come from? It was a means of divide and rule, and as a means to use and assimilating the people that they created Northwest and Southwest differently. There was nothing like Northwest and there was nothing like Southwest. And when you look deeply inside of it, you are talking of I just heard you talk about the Bamileke Anglophones and the Sawas. Who are more of Sawas? The Sawas are, when we talk of Sawa, when we want to talk of Sawas, the Sawas are in the Southwest, not in Littoral. Littoral are just people who left up there and came down here. So we don't have the Sawas here rather. They left here from there and came down here according to history. So rather the people of Littoral should be pushing up to go back to the north, to the Southwest. And those are the things that at times when we do not understand, we come and we talk. A lot of people do not understand the history of this nation. And we have been played around with in the mind. But some of us, we will take it as a duty to educate Cameroonians, because you can't be standing on a TV station and you are telling the people that it's just a matter of English. Not a matter of English. It's not language. It goes beyond that. But at this particular moment, I question the whole idea of special status. Why should the Eastern Cameroon be given a special status to Western Cameroon? That is proof that the people of the Western Cameroons are no people in relation to them. And so, in my question, if you ask me if there should be a special status issue, it's not a matter of special status. Let's give them equal status like it was before.
So you are talking about return of the two-state
return, whether it is supposed to be two-state federation or 100-state federation or confederation or what. All I'm saying is that there is a problem that has not been rectified, which needs to be rectified, rather than using cosmetic solutions to solve a problem that is profound. We should stop doing this. So that particular special status issue is just a scam, as I will put it. But in this particular situation, I want to say, okay, it is a step forward. Maybe we are going to move towards that direction. If it happens that they are calling for regional elections, which is something that the 1996 constitution was actually, it was embedded in the 1996 constitution till today. This is about 23 years before, after that it is being established. That's to make us understand something.
Okay.
There is a problem. And so my cry to the ruling party, which is in power today, is that we should not be playing around with the destiny, because I want to say this. It is easy to clown with people and manipulate them. But once anger inside of people keeps on being built up like magma, one day it will erupt, and when it erupts, there will be no way to calm it down.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor.
So something should be done as early as possible to solve the problem before it gets to somewhere else.
Thank you.
If we come to God up today and said that he does not want this, it is not just come to many other parties that do not want it. My take in it, I am not a politician. I don't have anything to say about whether they put it or don't put it, elections or no elections. It doesn't mean anything to me. But what I'm looking at is a problem that is taking the lives of my brothers and my sisters, which is as a result of the fact that they claimed, they came out and spoke concerning the situation in which they are going through. Military people were sent to gun them down. Now Amber Boys have joined, and they are killing our brothers and sisters up there. Those are the things that I am concerned about.
And your wife was shot.
And my wife was shot. That's the worst one about it. So those are the things that make me more concerned. I'm not concerned about the politics that is being played.
Okay.
Where politicians come and sit and
thank you, Professor. I want to be coming back to you. Quick reaction from senior barrister. We'll move to Vitalis, Barrister Vitalis, and come to Sulaiman, and of course Mr. Mike. Quick reaction, senior barrister, from Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Jarvis. I think it's time that we have some truth on this panel. I just heard my friend representing the CPDM talk of linguistic talk resulting from anthropological differences. I think he has really missed the coach like many people of his party. Let me just remind him, because I know he knows, but he prefers to adopt the position he's adopting. Now, in 1961, like he was saying, we should know our history, know where things went wrong, what is wrong, and how do we correct it if we want to stay as a nation. Now, the problem is not a problem of language. The problem is that there was the yam that was planted in 1961 has come out of the earth, and now we are seeing its ugly face, and we have to find a solution. Cutting the shoots of the yam is not a solution, because it will shoot again. So what we are saying is, in 1961, when the United Nations organized the plebiscite, the Republic of Cameroon voted, and they voted against the plebiscite. After the plebiscite, the UN said they have to organize a General Assembly session to finish with the Southern and Northern Cameroon issue. The Republic of Cameroon said no, that the plebiscite have already decided on the unity of Cameroon. The session was held on the 23rd of April 1961. Southern Cameroons, in the resolution 1608, that was voted. The independence of Southern Cameroon was recognized in Article 2. The independence was recognized in Article 2. Article 4 said, the people having freely, democratically decided as to their future, the trusteeship agreement between the UN and Britain, that is concerning Southern Cameroon, will come to an end in the following manner. Article 5, that manner was prescribed in Article 5, which prescribed a union treaty. Now, Republic of Cameroon voted against that resolution. They voted against it, but it was passed. Ahidjo called Foncha that they should go for constitutional conference in Fumban, pursuant to Article 1608 sub 5, that is in view of signing the union treaty. Ahidjo went there with Foncha and all their etat-major. Article 5 said it should be the administrative authority, the government of Southern Cameroon, and the Republic of Cameroon. Fumba was attended only by Southern Cameroons and La Republic of Cameroon. At Fumban, Ahidjo presented to Foncha a draft federal constitution. Many people have been lying for a long time that there was something signed. Nothing was signed there. Today we have the resolution of Fumban. Nothing was signed in Fumban. Foncha took that constitution, did not even show his ministers, sent it to the English. When the English saw it, they say, hey, how can these people be talking constitution when they have not signed the union treaty? They asked Ahidjo to convene the Yaoundé Constitutional Conference the following month. In Yaoundé, the British told Ahidjo, you cannot discuss constitution when you have not signed the union treaty. Now, let me say this clearly, because many people have been saying that there is something that went wrong, that England bribed, France bribed England or something. It is a fat lie. Today, we can say authoritatively that after the Yaoundé Constitutional Conference, there was no bribe. Ahidjo played a fast one. Ahidjo took his draft constitutional constitution of federal constitution, carried it to his own assembly as a constitutional amendment, and it was passed and became a federal constitution. That is the constitution that you call federal constitution, a unilateral act of the Republic of Cameroon. Southern Cameroon had nothing to do with it. Let me remind you that as Ahidjo was doing that, Southern Cameroon also had its own constitution. The Southern Cameroon's constitution, orders in council 1960. Till today, it is still there. It is still valid. It has not been touched. So, all you have been doing since 1961, it is within the context of Republic of Cameroon. Because you,
and we are back to the name of Republic of Cameroon.
You took Southern Cameroons, you opened your constitution and made a place inside it for Southern Cameroons, and you wanted to make the world believe that that was some consensus of the people. Right up to 1963, Foncha was still asking Ahidjo, when are we signing the union treaty? And Ahidjo did not want to say anything, because to him the assimilation had already been perfected. So if we are talking correctly today, the federation was a scam, the unitary state was a scam. Today the special status is a special scamming status to perfect the assimilation which the president accepted in France, declared in France that he had tried and failed. This is another way again of covering up. We are saying that please stop covering up. Open up. Let us sit on the table. Let the two states sign that union treaty which the government of Cameroon refused to sign in 1961.
Okay, thank you.
It is not a matter of language. It is a matter of not respecting international.
Senor Barrister.
Briefly, sir.
Oui, Senor Barrister.
Because I have to go to Mr. Vitalis. Mr. Vitalis, briefly. Okay, we're coming back to you. We have to Senior Barrister. This one reads, Mr. Jarvis, please ask CPDM if the status was given to the other 8 regions, and why then do they include them in the aspect of the special status? That was from the Anglophone. It's coming from Collins. This one he said, greetings to you in the studio, giving you special status here. Is it France to the Anglophone, Cameroon government to the Anglophone, or the CPDM party to the Anglophone community to the North and Southwest region? Please let there be a broad-based, inclusive dialogue. This Oloanvit, he says, thank you, Senior Barrister, for that elaborate truth. Is coming from John. And of course, Mr. Vitalis, are you there? Hello, Barrister Vitalis? Are you there?
I can get you.
Yes, brief reactions from the panel. Maybe you got what we were saying, we were discussing there as far as
yes.
the special status is concerned, taken out in context as of defining the linguistic problem as far as Mr. Joseph put it.
Okay, thank you so much. I validly concur with Prof. I don't understand what kind of special status are we talking of? I would first of all like to react to what Senior Barrister said. He said that he's in tandem with the regional elections because it is fake, and after the regional elections they can go back to scatter it. I don't think we should be supporting us wasting resources, just like what happened with the major national dialogue, where over 13 billion francs CFA was wasted, and then after it we realized that it was actually a monologue and not a dialogue. So what I'm saying is, I always feel slighted when comments like what the CPDM representative said there. He said that it is a linguistic problem, and even gave the impression that Lebialem people, these people, they are Sawa people. The Southern Cameroon was an independent state that could manage its own affairs. The Southern Cameroon and La République du Cameroun was not the only situation. We had the Senegambia Protocol, where Senegal and Gambia were the same. And you have to understand that Gambia is way smaller. Gambia is not even up to the population of the Southwest region alone. But they took to their own steps and had their own country. Okay, in 1961, we had a federated state. Why should now, as Prof rightly put it, why should they be given an independent state a special status? Why can't we go back to the drawing board? And for those calling for dialogue and so on, I am completely against dialogue. This issue, to solve it, is very simple. If Mr. Biya is really serious to keep this edifice as one nation, let the Anglophone people be given the right to vote in a referendum. And Francophones should not be allowed to vote in that referendum. Let them decide whether they want a special status, whether they want an independent nation, whether they want a federated state. And unlike, I disagree with Prof on the fact that the federation can be anyhow, whether it's a 10 state or 100 state this thing. Those are the arguments advanced by most, I'm not saying Prof is a regime loyalist, by most regime loyalists to make as if Anglophone problem is a Cameroon problem. No, Cameroon has problems. We have a problem of bad governance, we have a problem of corruption, we have a problem of police brutality. But we are referring to issues that are specific to the Southern Cameroon's people, or the former Southern Cameroon state, which was an independent state just like French Cameroon before 1960 and 1961 when both parties joined. I don't go into conspiracy theories whether Foncha signed or they did not sign. We are talking about the basic rules. Even if there was a union treaty between the two states, in 2016, the people of Southern Cameroon feel strongly so that they are being marginalized, that they are being disfavored. Even if there was a union treaty in any germane system, the government will come back to the table and say, okay, we have failed in this respect, we have failed in this respect. How can we as a people now revisit the union treaty so that we can solve this problem? Anglophones are dying on a daily basis. The Anglophone region is ungovernable. It is not when you sit in Yaoundé and say, okay, you send the military and so on to accompany ministers that they go and stand there and take pictures. You and I, we know that, Mr. Trump, that you yourself, you cannot go to Kumba freely. You cannot go to Mante freely. Even me, nobody can. So let us stop fooling ourselves. The earlier we have a referendum to decide on what the Anglophones, the Southern Cameroonians want, the better for us all. Thank you.
Let me come back to you. We are going round. Briefly, we'll talk on this topic, so I'll move to Atanganji and Maurice Kamto, which to prevail as far as the fight to defend democracy in Cameroon is concerned. Brief reaction for that, so that Mr. Sulaiman will react. Then now I'll start with Prof for the next round of discussion.
Yeah, the reaction is just that we should look at ourselves in the eyes and say the truth. Because the moment we start this one time giving is unpopular, because we have a lot of so many advisors on these issues, and I said, yes, let's get back to our historical legacy. We had a lot. It is like you say, eggs begotten of native fowls are not meant to be eaten by native children. You see, these people, they hate us for what we are. They don't want to give us what we want, but they enjoy that historical, legacy that we have, in terms of education. You see, the Francophones are much more immune. Many of them, even our CPDM co-panelists here, is proud how his own children are in Anglophone schools. And why should you be proud of something and then again, and you say your problem is problem of linguistics? Yes, even if it is, and you find the good qualities of it, and we are fighting to maintain that, something that you are trying to destroy, and we are trying to maintain it, and you love it so much. Why can't you support us in upholding that what we have had for so long? This is what has kept us as a people. We have had a lot of things that have been destroyed, and the thing that kept us as people, like the Medino, you have a lot of things, the power come, all those things that made us we are people. Even the banks that we had, they have gone down the drain, and because they wanted to cripple us. They wanted to cripple. What are they afraid of? It shows that somebody was afraid of something somewhere. Really? That is why all these things have gone down the drain. If not, why didn't they leave us to hold this thing? Even then, if they knew they was coming to, that's why they destroyed all that to come and give us special status. They know that CDC is going. CDC too is going down the drain. It is like similar. Is like you hold a fowl, you uproot of his feathers, you threw it on the ground, and then you threw it corn, and then you want the fowl to thank you for what you have done to him. Meanwhile, you have rendered it desperate. You have uprooted his feathers. So it is what we are saying, that the Anglophones, they need to come back to what they were in before the 1960s. I'm a fan of I'm a supporter of federation. What other people think of, I don't know. But I think that that still gives us at least a little bit of a decision to make for ourselves, to be able to arrange ourselves and fix. Come back to that.
Thank you. Briefly, Mr. Suleiman, reaction.
I think so many mistakes, errors have been committed within the line. If we say if we want to call on the government to go back historically to buttress some of the predicament problems and difficulties that has gone through from now up to 19, what we're talking about, I think is going to be a very, very, very difficult issue to discuss. And the government is not ready to go that way to buttress the historical problems and difficult predicaments of the Anglophone.
So regional election is just a window dressing, is that what you're saying?
It's window dressing, cosmetic changing, window dressing, cosmetics, and what have they.
Senior Vice say let's give you a chance to prove that.
No, what we are saying okay, now when you come to the Southwest and Norway region, the whole assembly is going to be CPDM. If you go to the Northwest, the Regional Council will all be CPDM. You go to the Southwest, the Regional Council will all be CPDM.
Because we want to try.
You see, so what? And he who pays the piper dictates the tune. The government is in control. The governor has power more than the Regional Council. The governor can intervene with the decision of the Regional Council. Now, what do you expect from the North and Southwest to gain from the largesse that will come out from the Regional Council when the two regions are all dominated by CPDM?
Thank you, Mr. Suleiman. A brief reaction to that before we move to the next topic, and he will too give maybe a reaction from what you guys have been saying.
Okay, coming to the idea of special status and the elections that is actually taking place, I want to say that election, to me, is just a kind of, okay, let's just keep on playing the politics. Because we'll be sincere on some of these issues. As an individual, even if Cameroon was a single party,
one party system,
I would not have had a problem if the problems that are on the ground were not there. But the fact that one party has been ruling for like ever, because CPDM is just CDU, that's the CNU, I beg your pardon. Cameroon National Union. That's CPDM.
Rebranded.
It's just CNU.
Rebranded.
That has been rebranded
on the 24th of March.
So one party has been ruling from 1961, from 1960 1961 till today in Cameroon. What we have as a problem is not the party in power. It is the system of governance. It is the management of state affairs. If these affairs were managed and we were seeing results that were actually empowering the people, nobody will be talking about the political issues that are the political parties who might be supporting it. But for the fact that this single party has been there ruling for centuries, let me use a whole century because it's half a century, more than half even, for 60 years. This one party has been ruling for this period of time. If you see the proof of works, it shows that it has been destroying the Cameroon that it actually inherited from the colonial masters, rather than fixing it. And that is where we have a problem. So still this idea of running for elections, actually consuming taxpayers' money and producing no results is supposed to be put behind.
Thank you.
We want results. We don't want politics.
Thank you very much, Professor Mark Anthony. In 1990, when Cameroon's President Paul Biya launched multi-party politics, it was an avenue for Cameroonians to express themselves into a genuine and inclusive democracy when the wind of change blew across Africa. Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Not that yourself can free your own mind. I have no fear for atomic energy because none of them can kill the mind. And of course, it is with that we take on the commercial break. And when we come back, we set the ball rolling with Maurice Kamto and his team. Of course, we will be moving on with that jingle in a couple of minutes or so. I'll be informed by my producer that we have 40 more minutes to go, and which is good. Thanks for adding that time, Mr. Producer. We'll take on this break, and when we come back, we will set the ball rolling, looking at the reflex of the 1990 multi-party politics, and looking at the aspects where Maurice Kamto and who is defending democracy, who is defending democracy, and which truth should prevail between Atanganji and Maurice Kamto. That is the battle for today. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, still in the back and to the anchor, the iron curtain. And it is with that iron curtain speech of Winston Churchill, I welcome you on this second part of this edition of our program. In 1972, in 1966, President Aidjo, we all know, killed multi-party politics in Cameroon, and that was when we had press law, which was the French 1881 French law, which became applicable in Cameroon in 1829. That did not give room for freedom of the press, freedom of association, and that PC newspaper that was Mbala was banned in 1929 by President Aidjo under the 1881 French law. And when we come to 1966, we had other issues that were taken into context. Aidjo had to do some certain aspects when it comes to defining multi-party politics. The reason from 1966 one-party system was simply because he wanted to consolidate national unity and to ensure that the nation had an agenda. That was what he captured in his own agenda as, of course, what we call the Green Revolution, which into looking at the President Biya felt the need to relaunch multi-party politics. Our big party that came into place in 1992 till today, we have been having backbiting, killing, intimidation, arrest, and of course, what have you, as far as Cameroon politics is concerned. We are shown 1990 till now, then Cameroon, where politics has become politics. This is the debut for today. I begin with you, Senior Bata. We are looking at this context. Before coming, I want to start with you because that you've had a change in both regimes and you've experienced as it comes to this. I'm looking at the fight for democracy, battle over democracy in Cameroon. Kamto and Atanganji should prevail.
Thank you much, Mr. Jarvis. This is whenever I touch who is gone government, who is gone to Southern Cameroons. Now this one. Let me remind people. This one is something that has to do with law, has to do with the constitution, the respect of institutions, nothing to do with your various positions that you will take. Now, who Otto and Tanganji is who in the battle for democracy? Now, Kamto, one of the CRM political party, and Mr. Tanganji in charge of that is the minister who controls political parties. If we look at Article 3 of the Constitution, it says that political parties are supposed to exercise their duties in respect of both of the land and the institutions. Now, Mr. Kamto has come out with this, saying that the first one, which was an ultimatum, if the president convene the electoral college, he was going to, he's just saying, well, de minimis, that I don't worry myself with trifles. When I heard and convened the electoral college, Mr. Kamto has now come out to say, okay, on the 22nd, the day people are supposed to vote, my people will be in the streets. Now let's look at it legally. Is a political party supposed to dish out injunctions against a government? I am the leader, I'm national president of a political party, and I will tell you authoritatively that there is no law in Cameroon or in any other country of the world I know that authorizes a political party to give injunctions to the ruling president. There is no law, no such law. Now, is it within the functions of a political party to obtain power, to attain power, otherwise than democratically? Otherwise than through the ballot box? The answer again is a resounding no, because political parties participate in democratically organized elections. Now, if a political party says, I am going to send my people down to the street to unseat the president, what is that? Is it a match? Is it a public rally? That is, we are going to go down to the street? Okay. Now that people have started talking, CRM says no, the right to manifest is a democratic right enshrined in the Constitution. The answer to them is a very simple one. If you are talking of that democratic right, it is governed by the 1990 laws on the public manifestation, which means that you have to obtain clearance from Mr. Tanganji.
You have to declare.
You have to no, it's not declaration. If you are going down to march, sir, that is a procession. For a procession, it is a 1 week notice. Even you have to apply 1 week, and you are authorized to march, because you are marching on public highway. You are authorized to use a particular itinerary. You have to, they say you are marching from here to there, and the administrator has a right to even change your course, the course you propose. So, oh yes, that one is different. It is not authorization. Authorization is having a meeting open to the public.
That's what you're talking about.
That's why I said it is law. People should not mistake it. Now, you want to go and march. You want people to believe that as a political party, you want to go and march. Now, where the whole thing turns around is when you say we are going down to the street to unseat the president. At law, there are two elements: the material fact and the animus, the intention.
Actus Reus.
Thank you, Actus Reus. So now, the animus, the intention. You are going down to the street to unseat the president. Can you be heard now to say that you are going to march? You are the reason why you are going down to the street is not to exercise a democratic right. It becomes now criminal, because you are the intention you are putting in front to go down to the street is to go carry out an illegal act, which is unseating the president. So I will, at law, declare what MCR wants to do as insurrection. So that is an attempt at revolution. It is not the exercise of a democratic context. In context, I say the intention, their declared intention clearly shows the world that the reason why they want to go to the street is not democratic. It is to go undemocratically unseat a president.
Okay, so you are saying that Atananji's truth should prevail.
So I am saying that Mr. Atananji, as Minister of the Transition, is right to tell CRM that they should abide by the law. Abide by the law, because you say that you are going down to the street. I govern the street, Mr. Atananji say, I govern the street, and I am telling you that you have to apply, you have to come to me so that I apply this law, and we respect the law. So if CRM is going down to the streets, you see on the previous edition here, on the panel, I advise them, any of you who wants to go down to the street, better prepare your coffin first before you are going. Because you have seen that Mr. Atananji was talking about.
Thank you, Senior Professor, Senior Barrister. We're coming baback to Good Day. Please, I know this is not a topic, but police brutality, especially in Kumba Boya, is out of hand. The police in Kumba no longer ask for the national identity card, but people's cell phone. I don't know if cell phones is a national identification card in Cameroon, and sometimes collect your phone and ask for money. It has become business. It has become business job from Kumba. Please try and bring this to broadcast for a topic. Thank you very much. Kumba senior father is here. He will react to that when the time comes, as far as that is concerned. I come to you, Mr. Joseph. We've looked at we're now in context to democracy. 1990 there was a relaunch of multi-party politics in Cameroon, and after that President Biya organized his first multi-party presidential election, which the SDF claimed they won, and they called their own president Elu, as they are calling Maurice Kamto Elu. At that point in time, the country moved forward. The municipal election in 1992, SDF boycotted, their party took dominance and went forward till now. We have seen this dominance of democracy and advanced democracy. As one minister said, Cameroon has advanced democracy. That the democracy in Cameroon will soon be exported to other countries like Nigeria, Senegal, Europe, and other nations, as far as it's concerned. Looking at that context, I throw that so that we understand where my question is coming out. Looking at this context of advanced democracy, between Maurice Kamto and Atananji, which truth should prevail? Will you not agree with Maurice Kamto that democracy still have a long way to go as far as your party is concerned?
Oui, avant de répondre à ta question, je vais vider un peu la première question pour dire que les Camerounais arrêtent d'être nostalgiques sur la période d'avant des indépendances de 1961. Après 1961, il y a eu 1972. Non, vous voyez.
Let him speak. You have your time to.
Après 1961, il y a eu 1972, parce que je ne sais pas pourquoi on ne parle pas assez de 1972, qui a consacré l'État unitaire au Cameroun. Nous avions avancé, nous avions évolué. Maintenant, nous devons aller de l'avant. Je ne sais pas pourquoi on doit toujours regarder derrière. Le Cameroun doit avancer, le Cameroun doit évoluer. Il faut que nous construisions le Cameroun de l'avenir où chaque Camerounais pourra s'installer où il veut et se sentir pleinement chez lui. Parce que nous tous qui sommes ici là pour l'instant, personne ne vit dans sa région d'origine. Nous vivons tous ici à Douala. Comme nous voulons que le sud-ouest soit développé, nous devons aussi demander que le littoral soit développé.
I ask my question or you're taking note.
Oui, je dis que je disais ça et puis ça vient à la suite. Lorsque nous aurons donc un pays véritablement uni, où chaque Camerounais pourra pleinement s'exprimer dans n'importe quelle partie du Cameroun, nous allons donc commencer à éviter le genre de problème qui se pose aujourd'hui là. Vous savez, le professeur Maurice Kamto a participé à l'élection présidentielle de 2018, octobre. Avant même, dès le lendemain de l'élection, il s'est déclaré président élu. C'est-à-dire, il savait que le processus ne pouvait pas encore être au niveau où on pouvait savoir qui est élu ou pas. Lui, il a dit qu'il est élu. Et les élections législatives sont arrivées en février 2020. Son parti a refusé d'y participer. Et maintenant, il donne pour ultimatum qu'on ne doit pas organiser les élections régionales au Cameroun parce qu'il y a des problèmes dans le nord-ouest et le sud-ouest et qu'il faut d'abord toiletter le code électoral. Alors que le contexte politique camerounais par rapport aux problèmes anglophones, des régions anglophones, était le même, peut-être même plus dur encore en 2018 que maintenant. Ça veut simplement dire, et je l'ai dit plusieurs fois ailleurs, que le MRC en 2011, lorsque ce parti est créé en 2011 spécialement pour tenter de prendre le pouvoir par une insurrection.
So you are seeing it as an
Je dis que le MRC a été créé pas pour la démocratie participative, mais pour prendre le pouvoir par tous les moyens et principalement par une insurrection.
You take responsibility for that.
Bien sûr, je le dis, c'est pas la première fois que je le dis. Je le dis ici, je l'ai dit ailleurs, que à Tangandji, s'il avait été dû, il devait dissoudre ce parti depuis. Si moi, j'étais ministre de l'Intérieur au Cameroun comme à Tangandji, moi j'aurais dissous le MRC depuis longtemps. Dissoudre. Et le MRC n'a pas le monopole de la force et de la violence. Et je dis aux militants du MRC, ils disent qu'ils vont marcher le 22 septembre, qu'en dehors des forces de l'ordre, dans le cadre de leur encadrement pour sécuriser les Camerounais et leurs biens, dans leur mission de maintien de l'ordre, seront là ce jour-là pour les en empêcher. Mais aussi, les patriotes camerounais vont s'associer pour défendre l'intégrité des biens des Camerounais qui pourront être... vous vous souvenez ce qui s'est passé en 2008 où on a brûlé des maisons, on a brûlé les stations-service et tout ça. Il faut empêcher de tels actes parce que des Camerounais ont travaillé dur. Il ne faudrait pas qu'une marche vienne au Cameroun pour détruire les biens des Camerounais.
Are you saying there will be a rival protest?
Pour détruire les biens des Camerounais, nous on va les empêcher. Ils ont une branche armée. Le MNC a une branche armée qui est maintenant en Occident qu'on appelle la BAS. Cette branche armée qui achète les armes pour donner aux sécessionnistes du sud-ouest. Cette branche armée. On a vu des vidéos qui ont circulé au cours d'une réunion. Je dis qu'il y avait une réunion de la BAS en Allemagne, à Munich, où le nom de Field Marshall a été scandé. Et à cette réunion, deux grands responsables du MRC ont participé à cette réunion. Le vice-président avocat, le vice-président avocat, Smith, on appelle, et puis il y avait Ekanga qui vit là-bas en Allemagne. Ils étaient présents au cours de cette réunion. Et dans cette réunion, la BAS a dit qu'ils vont acheter les armes, qu'ils collectent l'argent pour acheter les armes pour donner aux sécessionnistes. Ça veut dire que le MRC cherche par tous les moyens à déstabiliser le Cameroun. Il cherche par tous les moyens à travers la sécession au niveau du sud-ouest et du nord-ouest et à travers l'insurrection qu'il tente de vouloir organiser au Cameroun le 22 septembre, et nous n'allons pas laisser passer. Chaque fois que le président Paul Biya sort du Cameroun, il s'organise pour le déstabiliser. Et je dis que si ça continue, nous aussi, dans le cas du RDPC, nous pouvons à chaque fois que Campo sortira de chez lui, aller aussi l'empêcher de circuler au Cameroun ou bien à l'extérieur du Cameroun.
That's a fact.
Et ça, nous le disons.
Thank you. I want to say you take full responsibility of what you say. My media prime is not responsible for that. We must be objective, critical mind. I understand that Cameroonians have the right to their opinion. As senior barrister will say, when asked, when you ask whose truth should prevail, Atanganji or Kanto, I don't understand what you mean. Cameroon has one truth. The constitution of Cameroon is the truth. Neither Kanto nor Atanganji has any truth. The only truth is the only truth is their selfish interest. One is fighting to stay in power, and the other is fighting to take it. This other one reads, it says, why is the CPDM so afraid to dialogue with the real party of the Anglophone crisis? It's coming from Patrick in Bamenda. This other one reads from Asong from Boya. He says, thanks, Prof, for the educational history. Why are we even called Southwest and Northwest? We are not even in the north or in the south of Cameroon. Oops, it's like our names were gotten from West region, and from West region we are south of the West region, Southwest, and north of the Northwest region. Northwest is coming from Asong. Asong, thanks very much for your other message. This other one reads, it says, why should you just allow one person to talk? Please, Jarvis, there are so many people in the panel. Allow them to talk. This one, Happy Sunday, Jarvis and panelists. There is nothing special in the special status for the Northwest and Southwest. The government of Cameroon should be serious enough to solve the problem of Cameroon. Greetings to Senior Barrister and Prof. Mark. I am Manu Edwin from Limbe. I'll come back to you before moving to the other panelists as far as topic 2 is concerned. Brief reaction from the national ID card issue. The message that was raised that in Kumba, police officers don't ask ID, they ask cell phone and collect money. How to
I have to talk about Camto and
briefly, you talk about.
Yeah, you see, issue.
Is that true? You are coming from Kumba.
Yeah, that allegation has been going on in town. The rumors have been going in town that something like that is taking place. That the police have been arresting young men instead of ID card, they take their cell phone to see whether they are scammers or they are not scammers. That allegation has been going on against the police in town to the hearings of everybody.
Okay, and now let's come to Camto and Atanganji. You are of the Social Democratic Front Party. Last Friday, the chairman, John Fundi, attests that he has not collected any money from the government in terms of running his party, and warned that none of his party militants will be on the street. But they call for boycott strategy as to after the boycott is yet to be determined by your party. Between Atanganji and Camto, whose truth should prevail in the fight to defend democracy in Cameroon?
Now you see, Atanganji, Paul, Maurice Camto is he has no control over the judiciary. He has no control over the police, the gendarme, and the army, and he has no control over Elekam. Elekam is 100% CPDM. Members of the political bureau are members of the central committee. They draft laws in favor of the CPDM. Even the constitution that Joseph Owona wrote was in favor of the CPDM. That constitution is not a rigid constitution; it's a flexible constitution. The CPDM is tampering with it the way they like. It's not a rigid constitution. It's on this guy that then Maurice Camto claimed that he won an election. The 32% verbal that got missing, that have not been seen up to today. Also on that ground that Maurice Camto is contesting that he won this election. And Maurice Camto knows very well that they will not give him room for any demonstration or any protest on the street because of the law put in place. I'm happy that we have a senior barrister here who has told us that it is a law, established law in the constitution that you must have clearance from the administrators, and even the streets are going to be defined for you as how to go and march. But Maurice Camto is talking on opposition party. He has a right to demonstrate. To get clearance from the administration will not be easy for him. It will not be granted. It will not be granted. It will not be granted at all. So Maurice Camto as an opposition party and somebody who has been, according to him, been cheated in the election, and whose legacy as a politician is being trampled upon by the ruling CPDM party under the fake guise of the constitution. He has to best in another way to present his case to the public. Although it is dangerous, I say it's dangerous because it's better to go for non-violence than to go to violence. My party stands for non-violence. My party has been preaching non-violence from day one, and up to now we are for non-violence. My national chairman made it abundantly clear last time that the SDF is not going for violence. The SDF is not going to the street. That is correct. That is right. That's a positive step taken in the right direction. But again, Maurice Camto seems like he's been cheated, he's been hit hard, and therefore he has to look for options to present his case. But
so Atanganji truth should prevail?
No, I'm not subscribing to that. I'm not. That Atanganji's based on Maurice Camto's issue, Atanganji should prevail. I'm not for that.
Okay, Mr. Dimancho. Now, looking at this context within 1990 to date, democracy is at the verge. Maurice Camto says he's serving democracy. Atanganji says he's serving advanced democracy. Which truth should prevail?
Of course, you should look at what the population is going through. I like when we talk in the context of the law. I hate when people argue as if it is a fight between maybe the CPDM and other Cameroonians. I know when my co-panelists want to stand on the standpoint of the CPDM, I think that if this party threatens the head of state, the CPDM are going to hit back. It is not a fight between the CPDM and other parties. I think that when Paul Biya was voted in 2008, whether you voted for him or not, he is the president of Cameroon. And that's why I enjoyed Senior Barrister, because he was talking in context of the law. But I must say that in an extraordinary situation, extraordinary measures could still be taken, even though when we talk about the law. And that is why somebody, an American president, will say, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes a duty. We have seen in other countries whereby even though political parties, they have become activists because, sometimes when dictators become too sick tight and they think that because they have the law into their hands, they can just dictate the way they want to do. Look at the context of Cameroon, whereby you say any other political party has no right to march, but you find that CPDM militants, they have the right to march, and they march at will. And I mean, within the context of the law, within the context of the law, it's because they have the young. And when they ask for authorization, I don't think that they even take the 1 week authorization time that they ask to ask for an authorization. Within days, they have the authorization to march. When they become too consistent, the people begin to think that there is some injustice somewhere, and they need to fight back that injustice. When you look at the reasons for Maurice Kamto having to come out and march on the 22nd of September, well, I like to remember that date of 22nd of September in 2017. It's a very memorable date, and I think that there is somebody who is thinking that history was have written in 2017 and wants to fully write the history in 2020. But then we do not support violence. But when we come to, too unsupportive, that we whether we prefer to live and die as poor people and miserable people, better we should die as heroes, even as much as we don't want any bloodshed. When you look at his reason for marching on the 22nd, you see he's putting the people even though he's going out of the context of the law. But we have seen this happen in Mali. We saw that even with the ANC in South Africa, Mandela was in the ANC, and he did the same thing. Okay. We have seen that happen in Burkina Faso. We've seen that happen in other countries. Just to say that in extraordinary situation, we can employ extraordinary measures to solve that extraordinary situation. And therefore, I think that at some point, I'm with Kawala at some point when she said, no, if you think that you can win Paul Biya 2 elections, you are lying. Okay. There should be something that be done more than elections to win Paul Biya to power. I think that this may just be one of the measures one never knows.
Which means you are saying that the absence of evidence is not the absence of the evidence that the evidence is absent.
Well, if you say that 1 plus 1 or minus plus minus.
Let's come to you before moving to Mr. Vitalis over there. Mr. Vitalis on standby. Senior Prof, let's get your reaction. Kamto Anatanganji, you are not a politician. Which should prevail here in the fight of democracy?
The first thing I want to say is that I've always said that Professor Kamto is an opportunist. He takes advantage of situations to score political goals. You can't use the Anglophone problem as a part to your political games. The Anglophones are actually suffering. You can't be using it like your strategy up. And that is one of the reasons why I will never support him in any occasion. And so the idea of him wanting to go to the road, I wrote the other day on social media and I've said it on TV, that if in case he wants people to go out, I'm calling all Anglophones to stay in their houses. We have seen the barrel of the gun. We have suffered the bullets. I don't expect that any Anglophone should be that foolish to go there. So if he is struggling to go use to use that as a means to bring insurrection to the country, let him not use my fellow brothers and sisters. Those who want to go out, let them go. But I am warning them that it is not going to be easy. Because I know the way the Cameroon military responds to things like that.
They're unprofessional.
They respond with bullets. So if in case he wants to kill Cameroonians, let him begin with his family. I think they should be the first to go on the streets. I will not support any illegal march as an individual, because to me, I'm seeing it as an illegal move with wrong intentions. Like a barrister said, the first thing is that he called for the purpose for that going to the street is to remove the president from power, which is not the right move for a political party. As a politician, he has to go to the ballot box. And if the ballot box is more than him, it is better he become an activist than a politician. And so if he wants to use that part, that should be a good one. And you have asked me a question, I've answered one side. Coming to
briefly, please. Sorry, that time is not on our side because Mr. Vitalis too have to just give a word before concluding.
Like
we have about 5 minutes.
Anyway, looking at what is happening, if you say the Minister of Territorial Administration, it's true that the Minister of Territorial Administration is the Minister of Interior. He has the right to manage the interior, and he is the one that actually gives parties the right to operate in the state. One thing I also say is that as an individual, like somebody said, the Hitu is out there actually defending his position to remain tight in his position so that he can be eating what he's eating. So none of them have a truth. Like that person said, the constitution is the truth of the nation, and that is what we should uphold. And if in case there's supposed to be riot, political parties are not supposed to be the ones calling for it. They should go out there and go to the ballot box and win their elections.
Thanks, Barrister, for this clearance. It's coming from an anonymous, and that Kamto is perfectly right, and please, people should rally behind him. That is only way to ask Bia. Coming from an anonymous sender. Hello, Mr. Barrister Vitalis, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, please.
Brief reaction from Kamto and Tanganyi. Which truth to prevail? The battle over democracy.
So much. Yes, I have never agreed with Tanganyi on anything, but on this one, I am with him 100%. I would like to just take 4 issues. First of all, I see Kamto as an opportunist.
Yes,
Kamto, since the Anglophone crisis started, Kamto has never set foot on Southern Cameroon soil. Secondly, for those who say that Kamto won the election, sincerely, I don't see how Kamto could win that election. Kamto did not campaign to almost 8 million Southern Cameroonians. He never for once came to Southern Cameroon, neither did his party organize any campaign rally anywhere. So, and before going into that election, Kamto knew that the electoral laws were faulty. So I don't even understand how going to that election, he could even dream that he will win. When it even comes to the regional elections, I don't even see Kamto anywhere, because he boycotted the municipal and parliamentary elections, and that's where you actually build your force to go for the regional elections, because those are the voters. I see Cabral Libri a better opposition leader than Kamto. Kamto does not have any councillors, he does not have parliamentarians, he does not have any councillors. So on what premise is Kamto saying that he wants to boycott the regional elections? And Kamto is trying to use 22nd September, like what Prof said there. Prof was very right. People know that Anglophone Cameroonians are very determined people. So Kamto is trying to thrive on our gullibility and our yearn for change to use us as his springboard to wherever.
Go up.
If Kamto wants to run for elections, or if Kamto wants to become president, let him go and contest. You cannot be calling for protests on the guys that you want to overthrow Paul Biya, and because the electoral code has not been amended, and even using Mali. I don't know why such a high-profile legal mind should mislead the population. The case of Mali is completely different from Cameroon. In Cameroon, we have a very loyal military. That's why they always, the CPDM people call them professional military. They are not professional, they are loyal to the system. When you have a system where the military can never for once defect to support the masses, then you cannot even be deceiving people to go on the street. We also have very loyal forces of law and disorder, who only support the government. And
you take responsibility for that.
Yeah, I take responsibility for my statements, 100%. How can Kamto be claiming that he is President Elu for 2 years? President Elu where? You say you are President Elu, then you are calling the president to address the nation. Let Kamto stop deceiving the gullible masses. The right to protest is a fundamental right. As a human rights activist, I will always insist. But you don't just protest from the blues. Kamto should have a ground under which he wants to protest. Not that you come and tell people that you want to boycott regional elections. Regional elections are like nothing to me. So Kamto should stop using the blood of innocent Anglophones. And I join hands with the professor, the prof there, one of the panelists, to say no Anglophone Cameroonian should go on the street because of Kamto. They can go on the street for other things, but not because of Kamto, who is in search of power.
Okay.
And I will maintain that Kamto does not have the powers to control, or the ability to control how the protest turns out. He cannot stop looting, he cannot stop destruction of public and private property and so on. When we, the lawyers and the teachers, started the protest in Anglophone Cameroon, we did not know how it will end. And it has now left our hands, and some of us are even crying foul because our families and so on are being destroyed. People are being kidnapped on a daily basis. Let Kamto not start what he cannot finish. And if Kamto really wants to overthrow Paul Biya, let him form a coalition with other opposition political parties and put pressure for amendment of the laws and so on. Even if Biya is removed from power, how will Kamto become president? It will still be one of the Kaba members who will take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Vitalis. Thank you very much to all those who took our time to participate on today's edition of our program. This one I want to say, Ty God. We'll be coming back to you. This one say, Ty God is Ako from Banga Bakundu. Mr. Kamto should not be using Anglophone problems to back his political activities. This other one, it says, the only way to solve the Anglophone problem is national referendum. This other one reads, it says, hello out there. I'm completely surprised by Senior Barrister Ashu's sudden change of language regarding the regime in power. He now sees as correct everything done by the government. Meanwhile, for a few months back, he was a staunch critic of the same government he now admires. I follow one of his edition on Air TV where he said a total contradiction of his previous outing that Cameroon military is well trained. I am not anyway supporting the CIM and their stance, but people of great repute like Senior Barrister should be able to have a reasonable foreseeability, not talking one thing today and another the following day. We are out of time. Before we take leave of you, Mr. Vitalis, your last word.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you for such a clean program, and what I can only say is that I want to urge the Cameroon government to be more accountable to the people and to give people the space to express themselves. It is unfortunate that whenever we talk, you have to always remind us that we take responsibility, not because you are not in for free speech or free press, but because you know that next minute the hammer can fall on you, and as well you are pushing the responsibility on us. Let the president and his cabal give us the opportunity to talk freely. And when we criticize the government, it's not that we are supporting separation or federation. We are just expressing our political views.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barrister Vitalis Senegal of the Gambia Court, who will definitely continue the discussion out of studio. Before we take leave of you, just have your last word briefly.
Oui, féliciter le ministre Katangandji pour le travail qu'il fait dans le gouvernement du Cameroun. Et je voudrais dire que Kamto et Tangandji ont tous été membres du gouvernement du RDPC. Pendant que l'un est resté ministre délégué, l'autre est ministre de l'Intérieur. Vous pouvez donc voir qu'il y a une différence véritable entre les deux sujets, qui sont les deux sujets de Paul Biya. Autant Kamto est sujet de Paul Biya, autant Tangandji est sujet de Paul Biya. Mais l'un est ministre pendant que l'autre est resté ministre délégué.
Okay, briefly. In few words, what is a special status? I always like asking this before we go.
Oui, nous invitons toutes les populations des régions du nord-ouest et du sud-ouest à poser leur candidature pour l'élection qui arrive, et nous pensons que c'est d'un statut spécial qui va s'améliorer en 5 ans dans les années à venir.
Senior Barrister, your last word before we take leave of you.
Thank you, Jarvis. I warned earlier that misunderstand me. You heard. I don't know which program he was watching. Come to, you see, some of them get out of their their holes and start vomiting rubbish.
He said you said the military is well trained. That's his problem. He said, and he's someone from Boya who has witnessed brutality.
So does the fact that the soldiers brutalize people mean that they were not well trained? They are well trained, but you see, misconduct of soldiers, such as was recognized by the government after the Ngabo incident, does not mean that the soldiers are not well trained.
Okay.
So I am saying that people should, as my last word, people should not go down to the streets with Mr. Kamto, because Anglophones take note. What Mr. Kamto is proposing cannot bring an end to the Anglophone crisis. The Anglophone crisis can only be brought to an end internationally mediated negotiations between the two states. The electoral code as well. It is only during such negotiation that we are going to have and state institute.
Before we take leave of you, Prof, yeah, that's what.
Thank you for the opportunity to actually participate in this debate this afternoon. And I want to say it is a period that is actually challenging, like has been since 2016 in Cameroon. And I want to call on every Cameroonian, precisely the South Cameroonians, to get to realize that our lives are the lives that are actually at risk. So if the 2nd of September you are called to go down to the streets, it is not repeating the history of 2000, and so don't follow this one.
Thank you. Pastor Rahman, your last word.
What I would say is that I have to thank the House of Commons over my media plan for educating, informing, and sensitizing Cameroonians. People should continue their good.
Thank you, Nagode, and that continue. Before taking Mr. Demantu, your last word.
Yes, thanks so much. I just want to say a blood of a Cameroonian is worth any political ambition of any particular, and I think that we have to respect that. Going to the street is not a solution. I think that we should remain a peaceful country. And also to make an allegation, army is loyal, as the panelists in Senegal said. I don't think that we cannot compare them with Mali. I don't think those are some of those things that you have to say openly. We have always said that, yes, in as much have their fault, I think that we always have to give them the strength that they need to get ahead back, to be, to consider Syrians, in their day-to-day duties. So let us stay together, Anglophones, come together, form a political party. Why not form a senior barrister Ashu and get this country to where we want it to be? Yes.
Thank you very much. Of course, Minister Paul Atanganji is Cameroon is a state of law, that the law is the one should be of the law and no one below the law. It is on that we have come to an end on today's edition of our program, House of Commons, that comes up every Sunday at exactly 10 broadcast on Sunday at 10 p.m. We have a rebroadcast on Monday at 1 p.m. We have a rebroadcast. You can follow the program on my Media Prime Facebook page or YouTube, BT Media Group on YouTube. You can still follow the program, or you should go to www.btmedia.net. You can have the program there with you, and you should know that no matter the matter, what matter is your matter. Matter is your matter, and what should matter for you today is that the absence of evidence in court does not mean the evidence is absent. Tamai Jarvis is my name, from the town of Douala, which of course it is Cameroon's economy and all over from this end.